I'm now going to welcome our partners from OSSI, specifically Donna Johnson, Director of Accountability at OSSI, to provide an update for the board on the accountability addendum process.
Today, I'm going to talk about our 2022 Essa accountability addendum. Important to note that Essa itself does not require quote unquote star ratings, but it does require the use of framework calculations from a system of annual meaningful differentiation to be used in school designation. We know that we have a lot of constraints for implementing our STAR framework. We know that we cannot calculate academic growth metrics. We cannot calculate them because we do not have assessment data in ELA and math from the 1920 school year nor the 2021 school year. Our access growth metric, which is our ELP indicator, is worth 5 points in the framework, and it cannot be calculated as we've outlined in our state approved plan because of the same lack of assessment data. And then attendance growth, which is one of our attendance metrics, may very well be able to be calculated. We have the data. Our concern is using it in a high stakes accountability system, knowing that we have some volatility in the way in which attendance data was collected between 2 years when the learning environments have been so different. So what we decided was that in the fall of 2022, we will calculate and report all possible accountability and report card metrics. However, we will not calculate STAR framework scores. DC is proposing to take advantage of the flexibility provided and request to shift the academic achievement and the English language proficiency, which for us is our access growth goal, forward 2 years, which is reflective of the 2 years of waivers that we had in those two areas. Our graduation rate goals would not be revised. This accountability addendum gives us the opportunity to request to incorporate the 2 years of waivers as years that do not count towards their timeline of further escalation. The timeline for the addendum waiver and accountability. So we are accepting public comment for 30 days. And that public comment can be sent to DC School Report Card at dc.gov.
One of the things that we did pass was that we're not satisfied with the PARCC test as something that should be given, but also that any standardized test should not be, that there should be other ways to weight that.
Yes, so under federal law, we cannot waive the statewide assessment.
But it doesn't have to be just one assessment though, does it?
Correct. Exit criteria is the criteria that's established in your school improvement plan. So There is not a rating that we will be generating. What we will be doing is we will be calculating a set of measures to help us determine the annual meaningful differentiation.
Would you speak on and elaborate on how these updates may affect our proposed revisions to the framework from our last meetings?
They have no impact whatsoever on proposed revisions. An addendum is very separate than an amendment.
Great, thank you.
Some of our lagging indicators we often think of as statewide assessment scores or APIB scores, graduation rate. Those are lagging indicators, things that show performance after things have taken place. And so leading indicators are oftentimes thought of as attendance, as school quality measures, school climate measures, re-enrollment could be a leading indicator, a lot of things that lead towards future success.
You mentioned that the addendum is currently top of mind for OSSI. The deadline for this is March 7th. And so while you have received the state board's resolution, focus on any future amendments to the ESSA plan will come after this addendum has been submitted and is off to the races with Ed. So
I don't want to put a timeline of March 7th and start putting information out there around what is possible, and at least outlining what the timeline looks like and thinking about grounding everyone on the beliefs and principles of what an accountability system is and making sure that people understand what is out there and what it means to change things and what impacts it have. Because I think that's a lot of misunderstanding.
So our next item on the agenda is the state board priorities and committees discussion. Each year, it's important that the board take stock of where we are and identify the priority areas we want to focus on with our limited capacity. As I noted earlier, Vice President Thompson and I spoke with each of you to hear what issues raised to the top for you in terms of priorities you think the board should take on. So one thing that is important to both Vice President Thompson and I is this notion that we've made commitments. And I really appreciated that Vice President Thompson had put it that way in a recent conversation. We've made commitments to certain work, and we need to see that through. But I'd like to formalize a way that when the board has made its intentions clear on work, that there be some formal structure wherein members work with the agency to carry the work through. Dr. O'Leary.
I'm glad that y'all hit the ground running, and we're ready to run with you.
Think maybe include a scope of the committees. And then I will raise, and I'm raising this professionally and respectfully. I am concerned about Representative Patterson being a liaison with OSSI, given the work with one of our major charter providers and the scope of his professional work being engagement with government agencies.
I do want to make sure that as we think about any other questions or concerns we want to raise, we're just conscious of the fact that we all have a code of ethics that we are held to. And to the understanding I have, we're all in compliance with that code of ethics.
To President Sutter's point, we do actually have bylaws, and they maintain express provisions around conflict of interest.
I just hope that we can get more student voices in matters regarding to like anti-queerness and transphobia in the schools, because I know that like myself and my peers have brought up a lot of issues regarding increasing homophobia and transphobia across all levels of the school.
One of the things I wanted to talk about was how do we make it more systematic, the inclusion of student work.
I'm curious. So we're talking about engagement. I'm curious how our engagement is working relative to how it has in the past. So we're writing these emails. They're very comprehensive. Are people actually opening them? Are people receiving them? Do people respond to them? It takes us so much of our staff time. Is that staff time spent in a way that is most effective? I support and hope we can prioritize, which is how we follow through on our resolutions and our ceremonial resolutions. I don't want to limit the amount that we put out, but could we be spending our time to do more with fewer of them rather than put out more of them with uncertain results?
I just want to say I'm looking forward to the continuation of assiduous work that we are planning. I kind of wonder, as we expand on our work, especially student engagement and advocacy, I am wondering what is the possibilities of students perhaps being able to join multiple committees as well?
I love that question. And I will be frank that my only question is, how do we schedule it so that all of our committees can be scheduled at times that our students are able to attend in? Because I do think that the voices of our students are, frankly, to me, one of the more enjoyable parts of serving on this board.
And I think the past few weeks have shown this, is students are really ready to mobilize and stand up for things. And this might be something that the Advocacy and Outreach Committee focuses on.
So I would be remiss if I didn't say one of my personal goals for the year is to keep our public meetings tight.
Is part of that to say we shouldn't have public panels at the public meeting? I'm just trying to understand what we wouldn't do.
But are there things that we have been doing during our public sessions that we could or should do during?
May I jump in,
example?
President Sutter? I heard a priority of where things go, not a critique of what has happened.
It sounds like there's something we don't want to talk about here, and that's
No,
okay.
it sounds like it. I hope it sounds like that we're welcoming feedback and clarity.
The Office of the Ombudsman, as President Sutter mentioned, is going to have a brick and mortar parent center, family center for families with children who have special needs. So that's really exciting. The Office of the Student Advocate is starting to sort of put the final or take the final steps that they have to take to get the safe passage work up and running.
Meeting of the State Board is adjourned at 8:19 p.m. on February 2nd, 2022.